The longer it goes, the better that transfer portal begins to look.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're going to watch this show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, this show is free. I appreciate your support. Show your appreciation. It means a lot to this show. If you're watching on YouTube, become a subscriber. When you see the thumbs up, you need to smash that quickly. And don't forget to hit that bell notification button. That way you won't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. We've all heard these before. Patience is a virtue. Good things come to those who wait. If you work hard, you'll reach your goals. Whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish anything. Yeah, well, guess what? Life ain't fair. Those are the ethics and the values we teach. We've been taught since we were taught how to walk, ride a bike, right? From the time we were old enough to understand those motivational speeches, that's how we try and live our lives. Because eventually, opportunity is going to knock. And when that door opens, it's up to us, right? You got to take advantage of it. But let's be pragmatic. Let's talk real life here. And let's also accept the fact that sometimes, no matter how hard you work, you give 100% effort, you're laying it all on the line. Sometimes there's just others who come after you, who say, hey, step aside. Let me show you what I can do. Sometimes they're just better. Those are the facts of life. And this is the life of a college football player. I'm old enough to remember once upon a time, a long time ago, 4 to 5 years, learning, waiting, earning the chance to play. That was the formula for success in college football. You had 5 years to play 4. You do enough within that time frame, get to the NFL Combine, make an NFL squad, make a roster. Not anymore. That's not how it works anymore. Today, it's more about being like Trojan fans. Remember this name, Achille Ross? And I'm not doing this to make fun of Achille, but I just want to I'm using him as an analogy. I just want to kind of point out how what he said back in, 2017, 2018, how it's kind of come full circle. And that's the way high school recruits kind of approach it now. Remember when he made his commitment to USC during the Army All-American game? He said, for the next 3 years, I'll be playing for the University of Southern California. He was right. I just don't think it went the way he anticipated. Before his redshirt junior fall camp had ended, he was a grad transfer, and he was suiting up at University of Texas El Paso. Ross used the grad transfer loophole to play right away. He didn't want to, he put in his time at USC. He saw playing action. In fact, he was contributing. One thing led to another. There might have been a fall camp incident. I don't remember everything, but he ended up at UTEP. And he chose UTEP because he knew he was going to play right away. He wasn't going to sit behind anybody there. Today, the transfer portal speeds up that process. Nobody wants to sit anymore. Nobody wants to be called a bust. Today, the timeline for a college football player is you got to be a regular contributor by your 3rd year, or you got to leave. Sometimes you leave well before that, like a Rayleigh Brown. I think the term bust has been replaced with Joe Schmo from the transfer portal is better. And for the record, I loathe the term bust. Because again, each player has a unique set of circumstances. A lot of times players will get labeled a bust, and they've been dealing with injuries. And let's not forget, the term bust comes because these guys were, maybe overrated in high school. You get labeled a high 4-star or 5-star, you're expected to contribute sooner rather than later. And if you don't, you're quote unquote a bust. That's why it's not fair. These high school recruits, they're not ranking themselves, although they'd like to. Don't get me wrong. So look, for the foreseeable future, my everyday viewers and listeners, just anticipate me adding another Trojans name to the transfer portal. I mentioned cornerback Fabian Ross. He was number 10. He dropped into the portal on Tuesday. Well, on Wednesday, let's add him one more to the list. Andrew Malek. He hopped in. That makes number 11. He's leaving USC. Look, it's 6'5", 310 pounds, offensive lineman. He came to USC from Brophy Preparatory Academy in Phoenix, Arizona. My everyday viewers, listeners, remember me talking about the 2022 class being light in numbers and taking a hit. The 2020 recruiting class, I think right now, has suffered a technical knockout. With Andrew Malek jumping into the transfer portal, he played one game at center as a true freshman, and then most of his playing time came on special teams. He played 12 games in 2021 and in 2022, and then he dealt with some early season injuries this season, but he did play in 10 games, again, mostly on special teams. He had one game where he saw extended action on playing offensive line, and that came against Stanford. Everybody played against Stanford. It was at 66-10. That was the final score. Look, Andrew saw the writing on the wall. His window for a legitimate shot of starting or just even playing an integral role at USC, that window is basically closed. I've been talking about the 2023 freshman recruiting class, the offensive linemen specifically, and how they're anticipating playing big minutes in the Holiday Bowl as well as in 2024. Unfortunately, I don't hear Andrew's name being brought up too much. And that's never a good sign when you're going into a bowl game and you're hoping to play. And this is really the crux of the problem for Lincoln Riley and for USC right now. So many misses or let's call it a lack of development in two of USC's recruiting classes within a 3-year cycle, 2020 and 2022. So is it fair to call these players busts? Look, like the 2022 class that I broke down on yesterday's show. The 2020 class was also small in numbers. It was also very heavy leaning with the offensive line. You had Jonah Monheim, Cortland Ford, Andrew Malek, Casey Collier, Caden Stevens, and Andres DeWerk. Right now, it looks like Jonah's the last man standing. And Jonah's played every position along the offensive line except for center. Hopefully that's where he's playing in 2024, if he comes back to USC. I haven't heard anything, not hinting, just saying that's where he is forecasted to play in the NFL. So if he does come back, that's probably where he should be playing. And this is also why it's probably a good time to pump the brakes for USC's 2024 expectations. I'm not Lincoln Riley. I can put some limitations on next season. So even with a Will Howard, if he decides to pick USC, the quarterback from Kansas State who's in the transfer portal, USC isn't going to be considered a favorite to make the playoffs next year. And it has much less to do with the schedule and much more so to do with USC's roster. I'll explain more in the next segment because it's going to be recruiting related, as you can see on the rundown. So if Trojan fans are hoping for a bunch of 5-star recruiting flips to happen with their 2024 recruiting class, I'll tell you what, let's play a game. Open one hand, okay, close it. Spit in the other, close it. Now open your hands. What do you have? That's right. You got a palm full of spit. But that's okay. Clap them together, rub those hands, get down to hard work. Because we need to see what Lincoln Riley's coaching staff next season, what they can do with a bunch of 3 and 4 stars who just need to have that. I talked about it on yesterday's episode, that blue collar attitude, that approach. You know what? There's nothing wrong with USC playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. And instead of battling thousands of other players, including the pros and the sharks who try and make a living doing that, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then kind of watch the money roll into your bank account. And now the other thing you can do, because the basketball season is here, you can pick a combo projection across football and basketball from their specials league. It was a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports leagues. So in other words, you can take a player from the NFL and a player from the NBA, combine their totals and rebounds and wide and receptions. And if you hit that combination, if you go more than or less than, you pick it right, you win. PrizePicks even offers you a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So head on over to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege, use code LockedOnCollege, and they're going to match your deposit first time up to $100. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Okay, if USC wants to start getting commitments from the finger quote elite recruits, the 5 stars, the must-gets, then the hard work of getting back to the top of the mountain, it's going to come on the backs of guys who weren't considered elite coming out of high school. You know my thoughts on the whole star ranking system. They're very subjective. I prefer to focus on the programs that are recruiting certain players. If USC and Alabama are going after the same player, I don't care if he's a 3, 4, or 5 star. Nick Saban and Lincoln Riley see the same thing. Go get that player. Look, here's the thing. If you look at the On3 rankings for USC's 2024 class, each one of their high school recruits that are committed, they have a 4-star ranking in their evaluation, except for one player. These are the guys that USC needs to. They need to hit it big on the field in a couple of years, because between December 20th and December 24th, this early signing period, USC recruiting fans are going. They're probably going to be on full tilt mode. They're going to be really sensitive. They're going to see all the usual suspects with their early signing period successes. I'm talking about the Alabamas, the Ohio States, Georgias, Texas. They're going to see those, top 5 recruiting classes. filled with high 4 and 5-star recruits, and USC fan, their envy and jealousy it's going to kick into overdrive. I've been talking about USC recruiting versus the transfer portal a lot recently. It's that time of the season. Of course I am. By the way, quick note, I mentioned the name DeAndre Jules, the defensive lineman from Pittsburgh. Well, he picked South Carolina on Wednesday. He said he's 100% committed as of Wednesday. What USC fans should anticipate is getting some new toys after the bowl games. Okay, you're going to get a really nice early signing period recruiting class. I know it's not the one you wanted or anticipated. Still, you're going to get a nice one. However, again, let's extend it. Let's look at USC's recruiting season kind of like, instead of Christmas, one day, let's call it Hanukkah. By the way, happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish friends out there. Let's hope USC gets multiple days of presents. So USC fans, I anticipate getting some new toys after the bowl games. I think the last day that players can put their name into the transfer portal is January 4th. And then the window closes, I think it was January 20th. I think. Don't quote me on that. If you know, let me know in the comments section. And then, of course, don't forget, USC will also have their traditional February signing period, first Wednesday in February. So again, let's look forward to that window more. The transfer portal window after the new year, as well as the February signing day period. Because that's when more players are going to jump into the portal after playing their last game at whatever school they're currently at. But we know that USC needs impact defensive linemen, right? Okay. Maybe this is one player to look forward to. Because Texas A&M, 4-star defensive lineman, well, I guess he's no longer committed, Dalen Evans. He said he's not going to sign this month. He's not signing with the early signing period. He's planning to take official visits to Texas, Oklahoma, and USC. And he's going to do that in January. He told Jerry Hamilton of On3. Evans, he's been committed to Texas A&M since July of 2022. It's a long time. And he took official visits to TCU and Florida before he made that commitment to the Aggies. Big-time prospect out of the state of Texas. He was named 5A, first team all-district at defensive line. Excuse me. He did that as a junior. And then he also placed 6th as a junior in the Texas 5A shot put final. I guess he had to throw a 54 feet, 11 inches. That'll get it done, right? And then he had a personal best of 60 feet, 7.75 inches at a regional meet in May of 2023. So you kind of like an offensive line, number one, 2-sport star. And if you can shot put, if you've ever seen a big person do that, you've got to have balance and you punch that thing out. So I think that's a good combination for a lineman, right? Here's the other thing I want USC fans to start taking into consideration. And let's look at the future this way. Instead of forcing the issue with USC's roster rebuild, constantly just going to the transfer portal and loading up with a bunch of guys for 1 year, maybe 2 years. If Riley is being serious about doing everything with a defense-first mentality, right? Okay. And we're going to use the transfer portal. Let's use the name, image, likeness, resources to bring this type of recruit in. Because I think he's more important than a quarterback. I think everyone knows that USC also needs a veteran running back in the transfer portal. South Carolina, USC had success with Marshawn Lloyd. This year, they've got a running back who's jumping in. His name is Mario Anderson. And he's narrowed his list down already to 3 schools. USC got in quickly. This young man spent 4 seasons at Newberry College, which was a Division II school. And then he transferred to South Carolina in 2023. In his 1 year playing in the SEC, he ran for 707 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he did that on 143 carries. He led the Gamecocks in rushing. Okay. I mentioned he's down to 3 schools: Memphis, Oklahoma, and USC. He's already taken his official visit to USC he did that on Wednesday. So if you're watching this on Thursday, he was at USC. And like I said, USC is moving quickly with this young man. Running backs coach Kyle McDonald, he visited Anderson the day before. And the day after, he's on USC's campus doing an official visit. USC is also, they're scheduled to host a running back from Mississippi State, Joe Quavarius Woody Marks, and he's supposed to arrive at USC sometime later this week. Now, because the way USC ended their 2023 season on the field, 7-5, they need to find guys, and they can't miss on them. Whomever they bring in 2024 with the recruiting class and through the transfer portal, you can't miss. Everybody's got to be able to contribute. Otherwise, USC's 2025 recruiting class is probably going to look very similar to the 2024 class. It's going to be talented. Don't misunderstand me. But it's not going to be the type of class that, finger quotes, elite programs bring in. The 5 stars. The type of player that Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State rely on filling their classes with every single recruiting cycle. Where USC used to be. Where USC needs to get back to. Like I said, USC is going to have a talented 2024 class. This is not Darth Culkin trying to, throw shade. It's just not what everybody wants. So, let's celebrate this recruiting class as it's going to start with the transfer portal. We're going to get a bunch of commitments from some really good talent on December 20th. Then the bowl games. Then there's going to be another pool of players. And then you got the February signing period. That's how USC fans should approach this recruiting cycle. Don't put all of your eggs into the early signing period. That's not where this class is going to be built. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. They've got a really simple, easy application on your phone to use. There's a wide range of betting options. You can bet on the point spread. You can bet on the player props. You want to go over under? They got it, and they got a whole lot more than that. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Question. Give me your feedback. Is there really any difference between a 7-5 and a 7-6 USC team? No. I mean, besides the obvious, the one extra loss, I'm looking forward to the Holiday Bowl. I want to see players like Miller Moss. I want to see them play. I want to see him play. And I want to see him play behind that entire 2023 offensive line. The recruiting class that they brought in. Go across. Obviously, the veterans, get your action in, play for a quarter, and go sit down, crack an adult beverage. You've earned it. Let the young guns play. That's what these types of games are for. Look, I hope they win. Don't get me wrong. However, I'm going to learn a whole lot more about what this team could potentially be next year by what they do on the field. And it doesn't matter if it's a win or a loss. Doesn't matter. For one, this game matters for this reason. I guess if you're looking for a W, they need to go into the season not on a 4-game losing streak. And also, you want them to break their three-game bowl losing streak that they're on as well. But again, I'm looking forward to this game because I want to see the guys who are hungry. I want to see them go shoot their wad of cash. Spend it like they're spending someone else's money. Doesn't matter. Just go do it. Go big. Don't play conservatively. You've got all the money in the world to gamble. When you're on the field, go big. Push it all to the center of the pot. So you've got a better hand than everybody else, even if you don't. And then when the whistle blows, go back and do it again. Keep doing it. As I said in a previous segment, USC winning this game isn't going to change the minds of any recruits that you're hoping is coming to USC. It's just too late in the recruiting season. And as much as we want we like to believe USC's staff is out there recruiting their butts off, and they are. Again, because of the way the season ended, it might be too late to get an Edric Houston to flip all of a sudden. It's just not going to happen. But whatever happens in this game, I think it does start laying the groundwork for next season, especially spring camp. The win or loss, again, does not matter. It's how hard these players approach the game. That's what's going to matter. Everyone is picking Louisville to win this game because, well, for one, I think it's going to mean more to their program beating USC, kind of like Tulane beating USC in the Cotton Bowl last year. Still can't believe my New Year was ruined by that defensive and coaching debacle. Tell you what, though, Omni Hotel, beautiful place. If you're ever in Dallas, I recommend the Omni. But in that game, it wasn't about players playing for their future in the Cotton Bowl. USC needs to find guys who they can rely on who are going to be called upon next season. This is why the offensive line is going to be such an intriguing watch in this game. And I guess you could say the same Z's at running back. We know what Austin Jones brings to the table. He's going to play in the Holiday Bowl. But what about the two freshmen who are going to be getting extended reps? We know they're going to be the guys next year because there's no veteran running back returning. Unless they, get somebody out of the transfer portal or two. As I mentioned, USC fans, don't use this game's win or loss result as a barometer. Don't. Here's how you want to gauge this team's effort. If they come out with the same type of energy and effort that they showed against UCLA, if that happens, okay, Lincoln Riley, he has some bigger issues to deal with. And I'll have some thoughts on that matter as well. But as far as the Holiday Bowl, USC finishing 8-5 or 7-6, not going to make a difference. There's no difference between the two. So on that note, let me know how your feelings on it. What do you want to see in the Holiday Bowl? Of course, you want to see a win. But what specifically are you going to be looking for? Of course, you can mention certain players. Give me a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Not an X factor, intangible. That's the word I'm looking for. What's the intangible you're looking for coming out of this game? Obviously, effort, energy, guys who want to be at USC. All right. I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. My Friday rant will be involved with that. And I think I've got something. I'm working on it. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.